in our area since rock and roll's heyday in the late 50s and early 60s. Contact visited with Moon Pie in concert and as they recorded their second album to ask them about the El Paso sound and to find out more about the state-of-the-art in music and recording in the El Paso Southwest. And we'll have that all for you on Contact coming up right now.
El Paso is its own world of interesting people. People who come for the sun and decide to stay for a number of reasons. And two, that rare breed, the native El Pasoan. Contact with host Jim Clays is one way all El Paso can share in the lives of the city's most fascinating people. Contact continues after these messages.
For the last 9 years and through several personnel changes, Moon Pie Dance Band has been exporting its distinctive country rock sound throughout the Southwest, to the point where the band is perhaps even more well-known outside their hometown than they are here in El Paso. The prime medium of exposure for the band is on stage with major acts in our area. Headliners such as Cajun fiddler Doug Kershaw, the Dirt Band, Hank Williams Jr., Hoyt Axton, and many more. They've also been on tour with country songstress Emmylou Harris. This acceptance by music's major lights would seem to indicate that Moon Pie has it made, that it's only a matter of time till they make it big. Well, despite being accepted by the stars, Moon Pie is still struggling to make it big. And one of the reasons for the continued struggle is the fact that Moon Pie is an Upper Valley band, and they intend to stay an Upper Valley band. They have no intention of moving to New York or L.A. or any of the other music capitals. They want to stay here. And we began our interview with them by asking why.
Because as soon as you hit those trees and that river, boy, there's a different train of thought, you know. And we became enchanted with the Upper Valley, or maybe 10 years ago when we all moved out here. And there's a certain community of people that from the crossroads to Las Cruces, in that portion of the Mesilla Valley, that are real tight-knit, and they put out to each other, you know, a certain feeling that exists nowhere else in El Paso.
It's evolved. You know, we all were born, or not born, but, you know, raised up in the city, went to high school in the city, and just we migrated out to the valley, and it's just our lifestyle now. We like to be countrified.
Peaceful. Very peaceful, relaxing.
You live in the valley?
Yes. Yes, we all live there. It's just a nice atmosphere to be around the people we work with, you know, they're dynamite people. We couldn't match any better. So, you know, it's a perfect spot. Besides that, we get tired, we can always go look at the horses.
Well, I'm working all day in the country.
Those horses are on the McKee property in El Paso's Upper Valley. Also on the property is Valley Sound Recorders, one of El Paso's most sophisticated recording studios, located in the garage of the McKee home and operated by Chief Engineer David McKee.
A lot of people said, well, you know, you can't do a recording studio here. There's no market for it. You know, you can't do it. You don't know how to do it. You have to go away to learn. You have to go to school to learn. And that's not true. You know, a lot of people and kids in town, they give up their ideas, their motivations to do things like, you know, like recording studios and things that aren't really happening in El Paso because they think it can't happen. But I just kept trying and trying, and finally I got mine together, and it's doing business. You know, it's kind of a thing that, you know, a lot of people believe that in town you can't do these things, you know, and you can do them. You know, that shouldn't be negative about that. You know, it's people can do it if they try. You know, that's the whole point.
The album Moon Pie is recording at McKee's Valley Sound Studio is their second, and in the band's own opinion, it's their most commercial effort to date. It contains ballads, up-tempo dance tunes, and a few titles that Moon Pie hopes will crash into radio station playlists, not just in their own hometown, but all across the country.
We're going for what we consider the real sound of the real world of music this time, and we're compromising a little bit in what we would like to play so that it'll be a quote-unquote commercial effort, and it sounds real good. You know, the sound is there, the equipment we're working on is the best, the engineers are great, the talent's there, and we borrowed some songs from some great groups like the Doobie Brothers and the Everly Brothers and some other great groups like Moon Pie, you know.
Yeah, I was going to ask, what's the mix as far as original work?
We probably have, I guess, what, 60% original stuff.
All of us in the album, you know, all of us that are in the band, and me, myself, as the engineer and partly producer, you know, helping, you know, decide whether things sound right. We all have our opinions. We try and, like I said, try and put ourselves in the place of the normal person driving down the road in their car and say, will they like that? Will that come out and make their ears hear that? You know, will they really enjoy that? You know, not thinking just on closed-minded terms of how technical that was played or how technical the sound is. Sometimes the sound has to be strange just to catch people's ears because, you know, they got a lot on their mind, they got to work, you know. So there's got to be something else there, and that's what we're all trying to do in this project.
How is this music going to be compared to Moon Pie in the past?
It's going to be Moon Pie in the future.
Which is what?
You have to wait to hear the album.
The album, already several months in production, will be titled Flower in the Sand and is scheduled for release later this spring. It'll contain all new offerings from the band, not only in Moon Pie's recognizable country rhythm style, but also some new approaches that the band hopes will bring in new listeners and a wider following. However, the bottom line is not simply fame and fortune. They could have had that years ago by moving to one of the major recording capitals. For them, what's important is their shared brotherhood.
There's a melting or smelting pot, depending on whether we're
melting or smelting.
And there's another guy, Randy's one of the guys that's been, Jones, he's been here for a long time, but his roots were a little different than ours. He was into early beginnings around here of bluegrass and folk stuff. You know, there was a little folk influence back there, the Travelers Four and the Teak Woods and some of these bands. We used to have hootenannies at the high schools. I guess you remember that. And so we got Randy, who comes from those things, and then we got Jack, who's totally bluesy, and we got Dalton, who's world famous for something, and then me, who got kind of stuck in the middle between a little country and a little blues and a little rock and roll. So Moon Pie is basically a blend of those forces, I guess. That's the only way I can describe it, you know. So consequently, we can come up with some pretty good rock and roll, or we can come up with some pretty good country, you know. So I don't know what you would call it other than that.
But is the sound just like the people, or is it something that you could say, you know, if I were to play you something, you'd go, oh, that's it?
No, it's not that unique, but a lot of it is the people and the way they grew up, and a lot of it is, well, that's it, the people and the way they grew up, you know. It's sort of a blues country roots and everything. A lot of shuffles, if everybody knows what a shuffle is.
Got a rock background, but of course a whole lot of the country bands nowadays have rock backgrounds too. That's a big part of it, and we don't really want to lose it. You know, we try and maintain a little bit of our everything in our background, in our music, and it's going to come out that way whether we like it or not. You know, I've played a lot of rock music, and it comes out in my country drumming. Played country music too. There's a lot more to rock, so it gives me a few more chops than the average country drummer because of a rock background. And I throw them in once in a while. It gives it a little extra flavor. Like you say, there have been a lot of good bands in El Paso, and a lot of them have just been passing through, got here and liked it, decided to stay a while. A lot of them kept going. A lot of the local guys have left, but there's a few of us still playing around. I guess that's what mostly contributes to what you call the El Paso sound. Just the guys that have been playing here all their lives, they're influenced by guys that pass through, what they hear on the radio and everything. But there's kind of a sound that we all fall back on that we've been hearing since we were kids, you know. The local guys are the ones that we picked up our chops from. You can listen to radio and TV and all that all day long and pick up just so much, but you mostly learn from going out and watching other people play. I started out listening to Long John's drummer in the lobby 20, 25 years ago, a guy named Miguel, you know. He was my first favorite drummer. He was a local dude and he was hot.
Long John had a lot to do with it, and the other people that played in Juarez, because we all hung out in Juarez, which was Little Joe Washington, perhaps, and Sonny Guitar Charles. They had, and all of us would end up there to watch these guys play. And then there was just a bunch of musicians, like Mike Ciccarelli was here, and Joe Ritchie was here, and Randy Russ was here, and he's still here, and Jack Woodberry's still here, and Jesus, you could name on and on and on and on.
Dalton's still here.
Dalton's still here, and
well, what is the El Paso
okay, so
sound?
due to all of this interaction, what happened back then was we all developed a style from each other. Howard Steele was here, you know. I'll keep thinking of these guys, and we started bouncing off of each other. There was bands like the Arcades, and there was, you know, and there was a lot of blues roots to it, and there was a lot of country here. Charlie Daniels was here, and so on and so on and so on. So due to the fact of there was no outside influence, a certain type of sound developed, and we all picked up on that. We didn't have anything else to pick up on. After a while, a few guys like Bobby Fuller and a lot of other guys started going out to California, where they, you know, got their fame and got their changes, I guess you could say. So when I think about the El Paso sound, I think of the influence that all of these, and a lot of guys that I apologize for my name got from each other, and it's kind of stayed here, you know. So when you go anywhere else and we play anywhere else, we find that nobody anywhere else plays like we do here. And not that it's that unique, but there's a certain little, now I can't put my finger on it, but I think that's where it came from, you know. Just the interaction of all these guys back then, and all we had to count on was, and learn from, was from each other. And boy, there were some good people here back then, you know.
Texas sun. He rides alone, he's the lonely one. The cowboy rides knowing nobody cares. She once was his, but she's no longer there. He still loves her. The night comes on as the sun lays down, and with it, quiet seems to settle round. The desert sun has made the mountains red. He thinks of her while he makes his bed. He still loves her. Ride on, cowboy, sing this song against the wind. It's all done, boy, just hold your head and remember when there was a flower in the sand.